Well, as we continue our special coverage this morning on the second anniversary of the Davenport building collapse, many of the survivors and families of victims are still waiting for their own justice. Matt Christensen joins me in studio now with more. So Matt, let's start with what happened following the collapse. So we've heard from a lot of people they want justice. They wanted criminal charges in this incident. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Walk us through it.
Right. There are two things to look at here. One is the criminal angle and one is the civil angle. Let's start with the criminal.
Yeah.
So in that case, the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation, which is sort of like the state FBI, they went in and were on the scene and working with local law enforcement from the day the building collapsed. They prepared an investigation that took almost a year, went to the county attorney's office. She ultimately decided not to file criminal charges based on the conclusion of that report.
Right. And I think part of that mentioned that the building's owner, Andrew Wold, at that time was actively working to at least address some of the problems that residents had reported.
Right. The prosecutor noted in her decision not to prosecute that Wold was making some good faith efforts to improve the building. She noted that the building was simply very old and that nothing in the investigation would fit the definition of a crime under the state of Iowa code.
Right. And we should mention that Iowa DCI report is on our website right now. It is heavily redacted, so there's really not a whole lot that we're getting from it.
Yeah, the facts of the investigation are few and far between. We know that they did consult with some of the engineering firms that were brought on to analyze this in the days after the collapse.
Right.
But in terms of, you know, how they built that investigation or even what it yielded is still not open to the public.
Yeah. And so let's get to that second part of it that you mentioned, that civil part. So that's kind of where things stand right now with the survivors of the collapse and the victims' families. And so walk us through, they want justice, they filed lawsuits. Where do those are all currently on hold right now. Walk us through that.
Right, in the days after the collapse, there were a lot of survivors, the families of the three men who were killed. One of the survivors, Peach Berry, whose leg was amputated in the rubble.
Right.
So they all filed their own kind of charges, lawsuits. There were a lot of cases that were all on the court docket for these to go forward, and essentially they were all making the same arguments. So the judge decided to fold all this into one case. Now here's where it gets complicated. The city is claiming qualified immunity, and essentially that means that their employees should not be subject to penalties through this lawsuit because they were doing their jobs, essentially. The plaintiffs obviously do not agree with this, so it's going to be up to the High Court to decide whether the Davenport employees have qualified immunity or not. Once that decision happens, then the lawsuit can move forward. And by move forward, I mean begin.
Right, yeah. So it's going to be quite a long process there. So it could be even several years before anybody sees anything out of this.
I think so.
All right. Thanks, Matt, for joining us this morning. And all day today, we will have special coverage on the second anniversary of the collapse. So stick with KWQC.